Let's talk about zero-sum game theory and how it is applied to the United States society at large to keep us fighting with each other rather than taking a step back and seeing who's actually in charge. My name's Amy. I'm your host. I'm re-educating myself on the major themes and the nuances of U.S. history. The reason why I'm doing this now is because I am a grown-up and I think it is imperative to take charge and relearn things that you feel like you missed. So, let's talk about it. What is game theory? The way I learned it was in politics and international affairs class, and game theory is the way we look at different systems and how people operate within those systems. So if we're talking about a system, it is closed, right? People operating in the system are the people there. The wealth, the power is also there. And when we're talking about zero-sum game theory, there are players inside this closed system. And the idea is that there is no wealth or power that is created. You can only take it from other people, right? So you and I are both in this game. We're in this system. I get more power. How do I get it? I take it from you. So when I take it from you, you lose power. So if you add up the winnings, you subtract the losings, we net out at zero. Why does this matter? Well, I think it matters in a lot of ways, but we're going to talk about DEI right now because that is our current example. And I think that is really, really critical to understand why politicians and media are leveraging the fires in California to gain political points and to stoke the, no pun intended, fires of culture wars, right? If you've been following the fires in Los Angeles, you might know that the head of the Los Angeles Fire Department is a woman. She is a member of the LGBTQIA plus community, and there are news outlets all over the country calling her a DEI hire. What they neglect to mention is that she has 22 years of experience on the Los Angeles Fire Department. She has been a captain. She has got her paramedics degree. She's an engineer. There's so many qualifications. However, the phrase DEI hire has been leveraged to cause people to feel like they're losing something, right? If someone gets hired for DEI, that means other people are losing that job. And that plays into our most basic human emotion of being afraid to lose things, right? Historical examples, we can talk about civil rights all day. We can talk about the Reconstruction era. We can talk about women's voting rights. We can talk about the arguments around LGBTQIA couples getting married. And we'll walk through each of them, shall we? Obviously, in the Reconstruction era, when we had the largest enfranchisement of citizens in our country, white Americans felt as though black Americans were taking something from them. Most of the time, zero-sum games, specifically as they pertain to society, if we're not talking about finite resources like water or clean air or food, there isn't a zero-sum game. There's not, right? It's manufactured. Right? Because if you have lived long enough, you know there's a way to find more business, create more wealth, build entire industries, which is something we do in the United States quite regularly. Literally, new industries pop up overnight. So when people leverage your fear of losing something, it is most likely manufactured. Men, when women were trying to get the right to vote, would say their capacity to get the right to vote, their vote, will dilute the power of our vote. Black Americans having the ability to vote, having the ability to run for office, having the ability to own their own homes, build their own businesses, diluted or stole power away from the white majority in this country. Zero-sum games are manufactured and they are leveraged to make sure that they play on our emotions. Now, if we take a step back and we talk about this DEI hire example one more time, maybe we take a step back and we realize that, hey, actually, my company is just hiring the normal amount of people. My company is making $30 billion a year, and yet they're still laying off 30% of our workforce. But the CEO is making, I don't know, $1 billion, taking home that amount of money. It is manufactured to keep us fighting each other. It's important to understand that, and I don't think enough people do understand that. right? Now, we can also talk about it in terms of the last election, 2024 election. There was a lot of talk about they're taking your jobs, they being immigrants, undocumented immigrants, documented immigrants, just people in general. They are taking your job. The data shows otherwise, first of all. The data shows that most people who come to the United States to work for pennies on the dollar are not taking jobs that, affluent or even lower middle class white Americans or black Americans want to work. You want to go pick avocados? I don't. No. You know what I'm saying? So it is absolutely a manufactured system. And even when we're talking about these finite resources like clean air and water, individuals are not taking that from each other. But you know who is? You know who's hoarding those resources and actually causing a manufactured supply and demand issue? Corporations and billionaires. So here's the thing. 0.5% of the American population fits into the billionaire class. 0.5, which means there's 99.5% of us. And again, if we're fighting each other, we cannot look up and see what the fuck is going on. Yeah. It's a problem. It's a problem that we can't see past because they've created a system that inherently plays to our very, very, very real human emotions. So it's a classic game, right? It's a classic thing of us versus them. And when they add the human emotion of fear of something being taken from us, that is when I see it from the lens of that zero-sum game theory. And that is also the thing that supercharges it, right? Because we can stay mad for a while. We can stay angry for a while, but the way that hatred is made, the emotion, is by like supercharging anger with fear or some other version of passion to make sure that it is extended and that it is a sustainable emotion, right? And you can hear this, you can see it repeated on every major news source in some form or fashion. It's crazy when I think about it, when I stop and I think about it and figure out why we got to where we are, and it is because the people, the powers that are above us, the very uber wealthy, the people who literally have the money to spend on campaign donations and things like that, are leveraging our own human emotions against us. Yeah, it's frustrating to me personally, and I just think it's really important that we recognize when it's happening, because realistically, your neighbor, no matter what they look like, isn't the enemy. Because, again, 99.5% of us are very similar. So we have to recognize the fact that we're being fucking played. We're being played. And we have been for generations in this country. And it is just so important to understand that. Because understanding it is the first step to change, right? Recognizing it and saying, oh, wait a minute, I am being told one thing. I'm being told one thing when my rational brain knows otherwise, right? When if I look at the data and I understand the math behind it and I think about why home prices are rising, is it because someone's buying them out from under you? It is. But it's not your neighbor. It's not the people moving to this country for a better life. It's corporations buying single-family homes and taking them off the market forever. Yeah, but we just have to take a step back and recognize that. I do think that there is a way to end zero-sum game politics as it pertains to the United States society at large, and I think it starts with A, younger people in office, and B, women in office. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a young woman. I'm saying that because the data shows that when women come into power, they come into wealth, they bring their community up with them. They've been known to give up to 90% of their wealth away. And you do not have to look far to see this. You can look at Mackenzie Bezos. You can look at Belinda Gates. There is not this idea that if I don't have all of it, I lose it, right? There's more than enough wealth, power, resources to go around. And when we are pitted against each other, we are forgetting that we're all very similar. And there's a different person, entity, company, corporation that we need to be looking at for who's actually hurting us.